Hi, this is StrategyCast, where smart marketers and bold business thinkers share the plays behind brand breakthroughs. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avocet Communications. There's a pattern I've seen repeat itself inside organizations for years. Marketing teams work hard, deliver constantly, and still struggle to influence the decisions that matter most. Not because they lack talent or effort, but because of a handful of strategy gaps that quietly shape how marketing shows up inside the business. Today, we're unpacking those gaps and why they keep marketers out of the room where real decisions are made. My guest today is Stacey Danheiser, a B2B marketing leader who's spent her career inside complex organizations and now advises CEOs and senior marketers navigating these dynamics every day. She brings a clear-eyed, practical perspective on what actually changes marketing's role and what doesn't.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Welcome to the show, Stacey.
All right. Hi, Lori. It's so great to be here.
I tell you, I am so excited to unpack some incredible topics that we're going to talk about today. Just real insights, from the ground up on what you've seen in all these incredible roles that you've held. Before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yes. Well, thank you. So I graduated with a degree in marketing, and I had the option. I had actually two job offers, one in marketing and one in sales, and I chose the marketing route. And I'm happy I did because it's been a really fun career. I started in consumer marketing, worked for several Fortune 500 companies, and then I got lured away into the world of telecom and into B2B marketing. From there, I kind of fell in love with the strategy. I learned go to market. And I got to work really closely with the sales team. So I kind of feel like I was coming full circle back to my original roots, choosing between marketing and sales. And from there, I after 14 years in corporate, I decided to leave and start consulting. And so I have worked with over, I don't even know, 50, 60, 70 companies now, advising CEOs, advising senior marketing leaders. I have a marketing training course. I've written a few marketing books. And then recently I was back at full time for 1 year with the Better Business Bureau as the head of marketing for one of their regional offices. And I'm now kind of back in an advisory capacity. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything: corporate consulting, consumer, B2B, just, it all comes together.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting how B2B marketers are smarter and typically start out as consumer marketers. And I think that is precisely because of the strategy insights that become so important from a consumer standpoint. I just think that is the strategy piece that makes B2B marketing that much stronger. How would you respond to that comment?
Yeah, I mean, one of my aha moments actually making the switch from consumer to B2B. The first was that consumer marketing is very fast paced. In fact, the marketing team is the sales team in a lot of consumer companies, right? They look and revenue down, sales down, like, quick, we got to get a marketing promotion out there. So I became used to this like extremely fast paced environment and that we could impact sales, within the month. Then when I switched over to B2B, I'm working in a large telecom company. Some of these sales cycles were 12 months long. And so it was a completely different change of pace for me. Like, where's the urgency? Like, let's go. Let's try to close some business. The other piece that was very much an aha is that because consumer companies, they don't necessarily have a separate sales team. They put a lot of their money and energy into the marketing budget.
Right.
That is not the case in B2B. The marketing budget is very small typically, and because they're paying for salespeople and sales commission and that's where the majority of the effort and dollars go. So learning how to really navigate that and get kind of almost scrappy with marketing and realizing that we can't really execute a lot of things on our own in a B2B environment, especially complex B2B sales, without having that partnership with the sales team.
I would agree. I think that, Avocet is celebrating its 46th year. We were founded in 1980. And we started as a B2B agency and quickly grew into retail, working with companies like Papa John's and Massage Envy and Big O Tires and, large multinational brands. And I think that transition, and now we're about 50-50 retail consumer to B2B. I think the transition of really understanding sales impetus in the mindset of the buyer, the behavior is what did not change. Whether you're a B2B buyer or a consumer buyer, that behavior is still innate and something very, very important. But as marketers, translating that and making sure that we're aligned in the B2B sales funnel, I think is very, very important. And again, that is the gift that I think consumer really lends in, is understanding the behavioral impetus. We're going to read through and talk through 5 gaps that you see and that you've seen along your journey. And this one you see over and over and over and over again. And I think it's the one that frustrates marketers to no end. And that is when marketing is brought in too late. And everything that we've just talked about, I think, sets up why that happens. In consumer and CPG and retail, there's this reliance on marketing. We're the sales team. But in B2B marketing, a lot of people think that all you need is the sales team and marketing is not there to impact. How does being brought in late fundamentally limit what marketing can accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the number one frustration. In fact, I have conversations with CEOs almost every single week about this because there is a obsession almost over the product, right? It's that build it and they will come mentality. So a lot of energy and effort is spent in building up products. The problem is that marketing is typically absent from that. And so your product team is coming at it from one lens. The sales team, of course, is coming from another lens, and then there's nobody filling that gap in the middle. I advised actually one of the top telecom companies and had this conversation with their product team. And I asked the question, what advice have you gotten from the marketing team? What insights have you gotten from customers? How you're positioning this or how you're pricing this. And they were like, oh, we're not ready to bring in marketing yet. We'll bring marketing in when we're ready to make it look pretty. And we're ready to get the brochure or the website copy up or an email campaign out to promote our product. And it's just, unfortunately, marketing then is stuck potentially marketing a bad product, right? Or trying to put lipstick on a pig, as we say, and that ultimately, you cannot outmarket a bad product or a bad strategy. And so marketing is left kind of holding the bag. And the company truly does believe our product is superior. We did everything right. It must be a marketing problem. And it just starts this kind of finger pointing back and forth where marketing is not invited in the room.
It's interesting. I've said this before on this show, but it's just so appropriate right now. I've got to repeat myself. If I had $1 for every time a CEO came to me and said, I thought the product would sell itself, I would have retired 20 years ago. I mean, it is that prominent. So a mindset among many of these CEOs. So what does that signal about how leadership actually views marketing?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good question. In fact, it's for anybody who is in a marketing role, this is a great question to even ask your peers, the rest of the C-suite. What do you think is the job of marketing?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to hear the different answers. I do this. I as part of my consulting, I ask this question to the C-suite, and sometimes they're really, all on target. Marketing is there to be the voice of the customer. Marketing's there to help us make good decisions. Marketing is there to help us, break down doors and create awareness and get demand for our products and get in front of the right people. Other times you can see within the customer life cycle, how how the CEO might be thinking that marketing is this one specific function. They're there to create demand.
Yeah.
It's nothing about customer insights. It's nothing about helping to close deals or even identifying like the most profitable customers. And so to me, that's just typically like a gap. And I think over time, it's been really interesting. My belief, and I realized that I was kind of rare in this, by the way, is that marketing really should be owning the go-to-market strategy and driving the strategy.
Absolutely.
I think in a lot of organizations, marketing does not have that role.
Yeah.
And in fact, then the question becomes, well, where does it sit then?
Yeah.
And in many organizations, they don't have that role. The CEO is kind of playing it a little bit, but they also don't have a go-to-market strategy background. They haven't learned, customer segmentation and account targeting and positioning and value proposition development. And so it's not a good situation when the CEO does not have that, and then the marketing team and the marketing leader does not have that either. Like it results in a lot of frustration because ultimately the problem, is very obvious that the go-to-market strategy is not dialed in, but there's a lack of ownership of it.
There is. How prevalent do you really think this is today with all of there's marketing is such an influencer among so many different businesses, among channel marketing, among different companies, among coaching, just influencers. Just marketing is all over right now,
Mhm.
all over the place rather. And we live in marketing, so it seems obvious to us. But I am seeing a lift in traditionally non-marketing entities, such as manufacturers, now believing that marketing must be at the table and they must be there early. Are you seeing a similar shift?
I am, and actually it leads to one of the other gaps that I have identified in here, which is there has for years, I think we have forgotten that marketing is about relevance,
Right.
and that really that is the job. Like if I peel back the onion, like my belief is marketing is there to represent the voice of the customer and do everything possible to make sure that the content being produced, the products being produced, the targeting, everything really is about relevance. In my recent experience, I am seeing this conversation of relevance be elevated to a board level.
Yeah.
And really, that's exciting because I think that's a huge opportunity for marketing to step up and to have some ownership there. And I think part of the challenge for marketing is with the every time we go through like one of these technology, cycles, marketing tends to be like at the forefront of that. Like all of a sudden we have to learn every single aspect about, email marketing and automation. And then it becomes about like now we're all about AI, right? And how to integrate that and SEO and how to do that. And that becomes really technical and you can lose sight easily about the customer and all of that, right? As you're getting obsessed over how to learn technology and how to implement technology. And so I think this represents to me like an opportunity that if marketing can kind of just step out of that for a minute, it's not just the marketing operations and how to execute technology, but really about getting connected with customers. And that's the real value I think that marketing can bring.
Well, that relevance leads to competitive advantage. And
Mhm.
it's competitive advantage, again, based on the behaviors of the customers, not what the product does. And I
Yeah.
think that's the intersection of where companies lose and they don't increase the customer acquisition and the revenue goals because the GTM is completely incorrect and they haven't studied what they need to make sure that it's meaningful in the eye of the buyer. And that's where competitive advantage, I think, really is the starting point. How can you go to market without understanding how you can win? It is that simple.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things that marketers can do, right? I mean, I think AI is an amazing tool for this to
Yeah.
start getting a peek into how customers are making decisions and, using into like now we have access to all this industry data, right? And industry
Yeah.
insights and competitive. We can even look at, our prospects, competitors, right? And figure
Yeah.
out positioning strategies and things like that. I think it's just a matter of marketing using that tool to identify opportunities and then being able to present that back into the organization as a way of like, we've discovered something that is interesting that potentially changes the trajectory of the business.
Right.
That becomes a very different conversation than, how is our website ranking and, what does our email open rate look like?
Yeah. How did early in your career, one of the things that you loved to do was travel with the salespeople to really understand how they were selling, what they were hearing, how that translated to marketing. What did that teach you that most marketers miss?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we kind of joke that marketing and sales are like constantly in a battle against each other. But what I love to approach this from the customer's point of view,
Right.
and that the customer does not care that you work in the sales department, I'm in the marketing department, this other person's in the customer service department. They just view everybody as like working at the company. And so for me, that's what this was about is learning like how is what I am doing in marketing and ultimately like I really do see marketing as we're out there with a value proposition. We're making a future promise,
Right.
essentially, to a
Right.
customer. And that's kind of a big responsibility as a marketer. If we're out there making a premise in the market, we better be sure that we can deliver on that premise. And so for me, like I wanted to see how that plays out. How are we delivering on that premise in the sales process? How are we delivering in that premise on the customer service side? Right. So that we can make sure that we're confident in what we're doing and what we're saying. So
Because
um
all
yeah.
too often what happens is marketing has got messaging that is insights based, that is what the clients or potential clients need to hear. It's how they're buying, and how that's delivered through sales and one-on-one interactions can be totally different. And that misalignment, I think, is one of the reasons why marketing fails.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I love and I always encourage every marketing person I've had on my team, like I want you guys to go through sales training. I
Yeah,
want you to
love it.
learn the actual job of a seller because it's hard. It's really hard to be
Yeah,
in sales. And I want you to see like the job that they actually have to do. And then I want you to ideally go travel with the sales team or listen in on calls so that you can hear the exact language that customers are using, the
yeah,
exact questions, the hesitancy, the tone, how where might you find gaps or opportunities to produce content or like find some, psychology even of how we could get people over the deal line. And so that and you can't get that like sitting behind a desk looking at data reports or looking at survey reports.
mhm,
You have to be literally in front of customers and then you get to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, because you're hearing directly from customers, but then you're also seeing what's working on the sales side. And sometimes they're presenting things that marketing has created and it falls flat, right? And
yeah.
that's a huge eye-opening moment for marketing.
And I think there are other opportunities. Voice of customer interviews are a great way to make
Mhm.
this happen. Customer insight interviews regarding surveys are a great way to also make these things happen, especially when you've got like massive audiences. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to bring this point up to something that you see quite often is that busy feels safe, but it's not strategic.
Mhm.
Why does busyness feel safer than slowing down and asking the right strategic questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a I don't even know how we got into this with marketing, but everybody is like, look how busy I am. I have meetings all day long, or I have this long list of things to do, and it feels really good. I published a blog and I posted on social media
Yeah.
4 times this week, and I sent these 3 emails, and I did this and I did that, and we're planning an event. The problem is that it gets confused with like, should we actually be doing this, right? That usefulness question. Is this actually making an impact? And do our customers really want this? Is this driving anything forward? And I think people have been just really conditioned to use execution as like job safety
Yeah.
almost. Like
Yeah.
if I look really busy, then nobody's gonna come at me, right? And so when you're quote slowing down or taking time to think and be strategic, it almost looks, like you're not productive, right?
Yeah.
We know, I mean, there's multiple accounts of Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and literally Bill Gates. I mean, everybody talks about how they value their strategic thinking time and how they like to unplug and how, this is where the ideas and the vision and everything comes from. But so if we are filling our entire day, which is busy, 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 we're never allowing ourselves that time to think and to connect the dots strategically. So it's really like a dangerous kind of pattern that busy is kind of a fake metric.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's another important point here as well. I've seen a lot of marketers that are truly tacticians and they're not
Mhm.
strategic thinkers.
Yeah.
And, they might be earlier in their career. They maybe don't have the coaching that they need yet of a true strategic CMO or a VP that can really
Mhm.
help them learn. Or they've entered a business with a CMO title. Um, because it's early stage and they just have funding and they're giving them the title instead of, the money. So all these reasons happen, but I think marketers do ourselves a disservice
Mhm.
with this on many, many levels. And I would ask individuals listening today and maybe saying, well, that's me. I'm early in my career. How then can I become more strategic? And that's what StrategyCast is all about. My goal here is to increase tenure with marketing leaders across brands so that they are, impacting revenue growth. They are impacting customer account and stop and listen and grow and learn.
Yeah. And I love that too. Like, I think, I don't know who said this, but strategy is about what to say no to.
Yeah.
Right. And that I think is a really sort of important point for marketers. Like it is, it is actually very strategic to simplify. And it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to simplify and it's hard to double down on, and I think anybody who has been in marketing for a while, with it's very, very easy to go start up a TikTok channel. I can go right now, literally while we're talking, and start up a new TikTok handle. It's very difficult to maintain that over time and to actually start using that to generate business, right?
Yeah.
It's all about consistency, and a lot of these tactics take a while to get to a point of excellence. And so having too many and starting everything all at once, like I said, might feel really good because you're everywhere all at once, but it's not strategic and it's not really going to move the needle.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that marketing's fear of saying no, which is one of the key points that we wanted to get across today, is doesn't just have to be learned by experience. It can be learned with just simply asking yourself, does this follow the strategic goal
Yeah.
that we have? Is it in line with the voice of the customer interviews? Is it in line with our competitive positioning and our differentiation and our distinction? And that, if you just simply align it to that and provide a reason why you should be saying no, I think that makes it easier. But you've got to have the strategy in place to begin with and truly
Yeah.
understand it in order to get to that point. We want to be all things to all people. There's no doubt about it. What questions should marketing be asking instead of agreeing?
Yes. Well, I mean, so I hear this one a lot, marketing afraid to say no, and they get themselves, the symptom of this is like they feel like an order taker.
Yeah.
I feel like an order taker to the CEO, or I feel like an order taker to the sales team or the product team or whoever. To get out of that order taking mentality, it's actually about stopping I like to do this, throwing the question back at the person who's making the request. Like, okay, why are we doing this? Like,
Yeah.
ultimately, what's the goal? What are we trying to get out of this thing? And let
Yeah.
them answer. Oftentimes they don't even really know. Like, oh, I feel like we should be doing this. Well, I feel like we should be doing this is not really a sound business reason, right? Getting them to define what success looks like and getting them to really articulate like what happens, what does good look like? What are we trying to get out of this? And then two, what happens if we don't do it?
Yeah.
Like, is there a real business impact either way on
Yeah.
either side of that story? What I have found doing this for many years and teaching my teams how to do this is that they grow in their confidence to be able to ask these questions. And now they're not saying no. It's almost the other person is kind of coming to that conclusion on their own. Like,
Right.
well, yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't really thought about that. How is this different than the other campaign we ran? Or how is this different than the other event that we sponsored? Or, and they start really coming to their own conclusion that maybe the timing's not right, or maybe this is too expensive, or maybe this is a distraction for us right now. And so they kind of grow, sit up a little bit taller in terms of being able to ask those questions and push back. And so now they don't feel like they're saying no. They feel like they're just redirecting resources.
Yeah. I think that's great. Incredible insights there. So marketing fails when it runs parallel to business instead of inside of it. So this internal alignment is truly a silent killer, which is the last point that we're going to talk about today. What does true alignment actually look like in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one, I've seen this happen over and over again, and it's really basic. Marketing, I think there's an assumption that the business has everything figured out. And so by the time the CEO or the product team or the sales team are asking for something from the marketing team, we're assuming that it aligns to a strategy. What I have found is that often there is no strategy, or it's maybe loose, or it's not really fully written down, or maybe it's not agreed to. So like at the core, marketing should be aligned to how the business is making money. And
Right.
if I've worked in organizations where I've had to take the lead in this, because I have found that um, basic things, like as an example, who's our ideal customer profile? Um, eh, Different opinions came up.
Right.
And so then it became, well, great, let's go pull the data. Let's actually see who are our most profitable customer segments. And generally, just even that exercise was eye-opening, or is eye-opening for the team, because they say, oh, I had no idea. I mean, I kind of thought that maybe that was our most profitable segment, but I didn't really know. And now our data is proving it. So then the second part of that conversation would be, well, do we want to go try to find more of those customers?
Right.
Okay, great. Well, then we're going to put more resources toward finding customers like this, which means we are not doing these other things over here, because that's not where our ideal customers live. And so having marketing really understand how the business is being measured. Like, is it revenue? Is it sales? Is it profitability? Is it geographic expansion? What are those metrics that the CFO cares about, that the CEO cares about? And really focusing on, if you were to build your marketing plan against those metrics, how would that look?
Well,
Um,
and all of our clients, we develop brand health metrics. And brand health takes all of that into consideration. So it takes a look, are there new product introductions?
Mhm.
Is there going to be a stall because of a capacity issue? Where is the awareness as it sits right now? What is current perception? Where are we moving it? What's revenue? And then how ultimately does marketing impact those goals through, MQLs and SQLs and stuff like that, but not until all those departments come together and understand truly where brand health needs to be in order to achieve it.
Yeah. I love, like, one thing I always encourage marketers to do is, if you don't have a regular meeting with the CFO,
Mm.
that is just a really great stakeholder to start building a relationship with. I did this early in my career and still do this, where I'm like, teach me. I'm in marketing. I come in with full vulnerability. Like, finance is not my first language, nor any of my love languages.
Yeah.
So, sit down and help me understand the business metrics and what the business is measuring and what you're looking at. And it starts to create just a huge, like, level playing field. And so now it's like we're both looking at the same thing. We're both speaking the same language, and you start to have a different lens to, rather than let's throw away money on a bunch of ads. We have big things that we want to do, and sometimes, and I love this, not every marketing campaign or project or initiative is going to result in extreme leads or sales or revenue, like, right away. And
Right.
so being able to say, look, this is a brand building activity, and we are doing this as a stepping stone because we want to get something else, right? And getting alignment just on that, everybody can say, yeah, we're not doing this event. We're going to spend a lot of money on these events, let's say. We know that our primary reason for being at the event is not to generate a whole bunch of leads when we're there. It's
Well,
it's to signal something to the industry, for example.
exactly. Because brand health is so important, 5% of your potential audience is buying at any given point in time. That means
Mhm.
95% is not buying. That is
Yeah.
why the awareness side of everything that we do is so incredibly important. To close us out today, looking ahead 5 years, what will separate marketing leaders who are trusted strategic partners to the business from those who burn out, get sidelined, and never break out of execution mode?
Wow. Okay. That is a big question. 5 years. I mean, honestly, it's so scary to think 5 years,
I
like
know.
how much AI is going to be integrated into the role. And I think actually that's going to be a big part, right? Marketing leaders stepping up and driving how the organization is going to look, how they're going to have, people as well as AI agents executing. And I think marketing right now, of all the departments, I see this as HR, it's big kind of happening in HR, but also in marketing, who's driving that innovation within the organization. And I think ultimately like marketing stepping up and coming to the table with a proactive way to get more connected to customers, to
Right.
build that relevance that we're talking about, to help close business, like in terms of how customers want to buy. And that's going to be the interesting thing. Like we saw this with, what was this, years ago, where everything was outsourced, all the customer service and sales was outsourced to offshore.
Right.
And then customers reacted in the United States, like, we don't like this, and so then everything got brought back. And
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a little bit of that with this AI. Like, we're getting rid of all salespeople and all customer service, and everything's going to be a bot. Well, that's not going to go well. So,
It's never as personal as what brands need. It just isn't. And
right.
to be able to
Exactly.
adapt, you can't adapt as quickly. The IQ isn't there as quickly, just all those sort of things. It has
Yeah.
been such a pleasure talking to you today, Stacey. What is the best way for our audience to get in touch with you?
Yes, well, I'm really active on LinkedIn, so look me up on LinkedIn. And then yes, happy to connect with anybody there. Stacey Danheiser.
That's fantastic. That's where you and I met, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to get in contact with me, it's Lori Sartorius Jones on LinkedIn as well. Stacey, thank you so much for your
All right,
appearance
thank
on
you.
StrategyCast.
Thank you, Lori.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.